Now we're going to get to a topic that I have been following closely, as has my guest, because he's the lawyer in the case. I've been fighting along with the Concerned Citizens of Manteno for now almost 2 years. Actually, probably over 2 years. I'm not sure when the lawsuit actually started, but about then. So in September of 2023, Governor Pritzker gives Gotion Incorporated, a CCP-affiliated company that is under congressional investigation right now. He gives them $536 million. You've heard the story. You know the story really well. At the same time that you had a startup in Manteno, Illinois, you also had Gotion starting up a battery manufacturing plant in Green Charter Township, Michigan. Well, good news. The Michigan Gotion deal is officially dead. The citizens fought hard. They won. Gretchen Whitmer's green energy scam goes down in defeat as Gotion ends its plans for a battery plant in Green Charter Township. And now the state will attempt to recoup $23.6 million that they paid for the land on which the plant was supposed to be built. Good luck getting your money back, I would say. The Midwesterner had the story, CCP Gotion dead. Whitmer funded Chinese battery maker. I love it. I love it. They don't mince words here. Chinese battery maker. That's right. Chinese battery maker. Now, Michigan was much worse. I mean, Gretchen Whitmer gave him $715 million in taxpayer-funded incentives for the Gotion plant. They couldn't even break ground because the people fought back so hard there. They couldn't even break ground. So this is what they're up against. This is what they were up against, and they won. They won. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation contends it's not the outcome we hoped for. No, we really wanted this big battery, dirty plant to be there, but you know what? They pulled the plug. Well, they pulled the plug, and then guess what they did? And I'm alleging this. I don't know for sure, but I'm betting. I'd bet a lot of money that it's true. They moved their production to Manteno, which was only supposed to be a battery assembly plant. I bet you in $1 it's going to be a battery manufacturing plant. Well, to hear, but the Concerned Citizens of Manteno are suing them. Here to update us on that case is the lawyer for the Concerned Citizens of Manteno, Robby Dube. He joins me now to talk about how they were successful in defeating Gotion in Michigan and what is the status of the court case or against Gotion in Illinois. Robby, thanks so much for joining me tonight on The Real Story.
Thank you for having me, Jeanne, and thank you for your support.
Yes. So let's start with Michigan. This is quite the victory. And I just kind of tell us, like, why is it that Gotion finally pulled the plug? Or who pulled the plug on this?
Yeah, and so the citizens of Green Charter Township have the ability to do something that Illinois citizens don't, which is to recall public officials who violate their oaths, their duties, their obligations to the people. So when Gotion tried to come in, they tried to keep it all secret, all hush-hush. People don't get to know. They tried to ram it down the citizens' throats, but the citizens found out. So the citizens organized. They recalled their entire board, or maybe one person survived the recall, but basically they kicked the bums out. They got a new board in there, and the board said, hey, we are taking control of our zoning because the county was entirely supportive of Gotion coming in. They said, no, we're going to control our zoning. Gotion, you need to apply with us. And by the way, Gotion, you're trying to do all these things on your property. You have to get approval from us to do that. Well, instead of doing any of that, Gotion sued the town to try to force them into accepting all of the things Gotion was trying to do. But Gotion had a big problem. They went and got a preliminary injunction, so they were able to stop the town from stopping them and really stop the town from doing its due diligence. And that's when I had been involved helping the citizens, and then the town brought me on to join the lawyers who had been fighting for them to take it up to the Sixth Circuit at the federal level. Throughout all that time, Gotion had an obligation, under all the money they had received, to be progressing with the plan. And there's a lot of things Gotion could have done. They could have started building a foundation. They could have ever applied for zoning or any sort of site approval, but they didn't. Instead, they sat there for months, for a year, cried that the town was making it impossible for them to do anything, even though they never once even tried to apply, and instead wasted a bunch of the town's money suing them in court. Well, eventually, Republicans took back the House in Michigan, started doing investigations. The no Gotion, Congressman Molinar, Congressman LaHood started revealing the, what they've said it looks like credible ties to slave labor, to CCP control, et cetera. And they were able to finally get the Michigan government to say, wait a minute, you're not actually doing anything you're supposed to do under this contract. Now, Jeannie, that's been true for months, in fact, for over a year. But now the government finally says, okay, you have 30 days to start doing some activity on the plant. So if I'm Gotion and I genuinely want to build this plant, I want to, I took all this taxpayer money saying I was going to do it, I would at least apply for a site plan. I would at least break ground on something. Gotion instead sends a letter saying, no, we haven't abandoned the project. This is all the township's fault. These mean, evil citizens have made it so impossible for us, multi-million-dollar company, to do anything. While in Illinois saying, citizens, you have no power, you can't do anything. So apparently the Michigan citizens are these all-powerful beings, and Illinois citizens need to sit down and shut up. And the government said, that's bogus. That's not true. You need to pay us back the money. And so Gotion folded, from everything I can tell, and basically said, fine, we're going to give up on Michigan. And I think you're right, Jeannie. They're going to try to move the manufacturing over to Illinois. And that's going to cause even more environmental harms, even more environmental problems, especially given that the big bill of goods that they sold Manteno when the citizens first started opposing this was, well, don't worry, we're not manufacturing. We're just assembling. It's going to be okay. Well, I really don't think that's going to be the case, Jeannie.
So what is the status then? Because the citizens, and by the way, we have a big fundraiser tomorrow, Tuesday night. Gordon Chang's coming in, Olympia Fields Country Club. I'm sorry if you want a ticket. Ticket sales have been closed for a week. I told you I've been highlighting this for a long time. We have a nice group of people coming. We're really excited about the night. It's going to be really wonderful. When it's all the proceeds go to raise money for this lawsuit, because it's a very expensive lawsuit to sue. You're basically suing one of the really a multi-billion-dollar multinational company, and these citizens are taking them on. And how's that lawsuit going, Robby? You are the lead lawyer on this case. What's going on?
Yeah, so in that case, I'm partnering with Illinois attorney Dave Bergdahl. And I want to point something else out, Jeannie, that you've been banging the drum on. It's not just that they're a multi-billion-dollar international company. It's that they're getting millions of taxpayer dollars to fight this thing, right? So they're using your money and forcing citizens to fundraise to try to build a plant using your money. Right. I mean, that is just egregious to me. I think that is wrong. But I'm not the governor of Illinois. Pritzker is currently. So I don't get to say. But with the lawsuit itself, we are in what's called discovery. That's when we get the chance finally to get into Gotion's internal documents, Gotion's internal information, to depose people to figure out what's actually going on here. And I'll tell you how it's going, Jeannie. Gotion refused to answer a single interrogatory. That's a document that says you have to provide this information. They objected to every single one and refused to provide information to a single one. I have never had that happen in my over, half a decade of litigating across the country. I have sued some of the biggest companies in the country. I have gone and sued the federal government, state government, local government. I have never had a company refuse to answer a single interrogatory. So we sent them under Illinois, you have to send a deficiency notice saying, obviously you have to answer my questions. And if they don't, we have to go back to court and bring a motion to force them to do what they were supposed to do. They also haven't produced a single document, even though their deadline to do so was, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks. So they're trying everything they can to not allow the legal process that we have in this country for justice. They are doing everything they can to not engage in that process.
Well, let's be clear here. This lawsuit was probably started sometime at the beginning of 2024, maybe even before that. I don't recall.
December of 23.
Okay, December of 23. And by the way, in December they got a $50 million check from Governor Pritzker, cash to them from you, the taxpayer, and then they got a $75 million check on January 2nd of 2024. So they're using your tax money, state taxpayers, to basically fight a lawsuit against the citizens who just want to find out what's going on. So you've been fighting this lawsuit. They've known this. They've been obstinate every step of the way. The judge decided, she went back and forth. There's been a lot of court time on this case already. Finally, she says, no, we are going to trial. You're going through discovery. And they are still impeding everything, right?
Right. Well, they managed to stall this for a year and a half at the pleading stage, one of the longest pleading stages I've ever had in my litigation. They successfully held this off for a long time. But then at the end of the day, every single claim we had against Gotion went through. The only claims that the court said I'm not going to allow through were certain, niche claims against the village itself. So Gotion burned a year and a half of time successfully, unfortunately, to, at the end of the day, everything we claimed against them, we get to go into discovery on. Now they're trying to do the same thing. What they're trying to do is they're trying to run out the clock. They are trying to bleed the citizens dry. They know we have limitless resources because Pritzker will just keep throwing his gambling money that he wins apparently at us. So that we can have them as funds, and they know that regular citizens are footing the bill. I mean, we're talking people giving $5, $10, a month to help, which is a huge deal. It makes a difference, but it's a very David versus Goliath story, and they are betting that if they wait long enough, if they hold it out long enough, David won't have any stones left.
It's absolutely disgusting. And in the meantime, that whole time they've been buying up farmland at a premium price around their facility. They put up a sign saying they are a foreign trade zone because they've been importing items directly from China, since at one point they weren't permitted yet to even assemble, and they're not permitted to manufacture, is my understanding. And so they've been operating as if this lawsuit means nothing, and as if they're just going to be a continuing operation forever. And I think they're probably operating outside the limits of the law from what they're supposed to be doing, but we don't know. We can't find out. We promised these guys $536 million in subsidies, plus 30 years of a frozen property tax assessment, plus tens of millions of dollars in road construction that was also done for them. I mean, you name it, they got it. And we know nothing about the operation and nothing about what's going on in there. And any elected official who walks in there has to do so under an NDA, meaning they can't say a word about what they see inside that plant operation. That's my understanding from people on the ground. Is that yours as well?
Well, let's talk about several things. One, Gotion loves their NDAs. They used them aggressively in Michigan. And what they did, what our understanding is, again, we don't know because we can't get the documents from them, is that they used the Kankakee County Economic Alliance to get NDAs for public officials instead of having them sign in their public capacity. That's what supposedly Mayor Nugent did. He told the voters, I have an NDA, can't discuss it. And then when push came to shove, the village denied that he ever had an NDA. So, who was lying when? But what frustrates me, Jeanne, is you got elected officials that are still in the Manteno board, who week after week, month after month, tell the citizens, you're racist, you're bigoted, you're ignorant, Gotion is here to stay. Well, you know who said that? The recalled board members in Green Charter Township. They said the exact same things to their citizens, and they were wrong. And what blows my mind is that Congress, not just some radical wing of one party, a bipartisan committee of Congress has investigated this company. They passed a law specifically banning that company from using tax incentives. They have said this company is using slave labor. And so for the elected officials in Manteno who were part of that choice party to turn around to the citizens and do the same tired attacks, personal attacks, claiming Gotion's here to stay that the Michigan people did is infuriating to me. But maybe that's a tangent. The point being is that Gotion, is going to pull every single stop they can to delay this lawsuit as long as they can, to avoid doing anything they can, but they are running out of runway, and they are running out of time. They think that they can outlast the citizens. Michigan proved them wrong.
Well, and the Concerned Citizens of Manteno, with our help, is going to prove them wrong. We need everybody in this fight. This is every citizen's fight in the state of Illinois. We cannot let big government and big Chinese companies run us over. And that's exactly what's happening here. And God bless the Concerned Citizens of Manteno for working so hard and staying in the fight. I mean, they should receive some sort of award for their fight and what they've taken on. And so I really appreciate them. I appreciate you too, Robby. And I can't wait to see you Tuesday night and hear your remarks and hear from Gordon Chang, who is going to basically tell you this is all part of the Chinese plan. This is how they infiltrate America. And they're a dangerous company. We should not be dealing with them. Yep.
Well, I look forward to hearing Gordon Chang as well. And I just want to call out, too, of course, while the Concerned Citizens of Manteno are putting up a heroic effort, there is an individual, Brian Kavaka, who is a plaintiff as well, who was brave enough to put his name out there, brave enough to stand up and say this is wrong and this is not okay. And I want to make sure that he gets his due credit, too, because he's been an enormous part of this whole process. Thank you for mentioning Brian. Appreciate it. All right. That's all we have time for. Thanks so much, Robby Dube, for joining us on The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. We'll be right back.